So let's start recording of this lesson, and it is lesson 12, and I apologize about delaying grading, and unfortunately it was related to being sick, and being sick is related to coding too much for this course, because these topics are not completely new to me, but I'm still learning about some specifics of it. Especially specifics of making logins, because previously I was just borrowing code from given examples, assuming that, okay, this is probably the simplest scenario, and I still think it is the simplest scenario, but you will see today that it's not greatest, it is just simplest. And I tried to extend this into more realistic, which is not simplest, and it did work to some degree, but later I had bugs and I invested far too much energy into fixing them, so I decided to put it away and continue with grading, because grading becomes an issue because it's too much grading accumulated already, so I wanted to resolve that first. So for this reason, we continue with Firebase, and for this reason we have essentially 3 examples. One example is nodes that we ran it last time, and it is based on example provided by Google, and I heavily rewrote it, spending more than a day, it's probably like 2 days, my time, and like morning to evening, and I also used artificial intelligence engine Gemini to help me rewrite it. So it was quite an effort. Because original code was hard to explain, it was jumping all around, so it's not just hard to explain, it was also hard to follow. And this hard to explain was the result of hard to follow code. So this is what we have. We also have original one, and original one is linked to the video that I posted here. It's not my video, it is video. Wait, this one. It is a video on YouTube provided by Google. It is not really explaining given example, it is just discussing anonymous login that was inside of the example. So it was a discussion of just one little piece of the example, but not entire thing. So there is the original code of nodes is below this video. A link below this video. This is not original. So today we will dive into this code, and I created another link to it in week 12. It is the same. There is original code of nodes refers to Marina Kaelha. I assume that she wrote it because on GitHub it has reference to her account. I don't know who wrote it. It's just my assumption that she did. Maybe somebody else in the Google, and she was kind of posting the kind of teamwork from Google because it is coming from Google. There is I assume that she is responsible for creating this code to some degree because she's posting it. And there is one more example which is more complicated than nodes, and this is called Make It So. Make It So exists in 2 versions, version 1 and version 2. Version 1 didn't exist a year ago when I was teaching this course. So I rewrote this course rewrote that example extremely drastically because it had exactly the same issue as nodes. Hard to follow, even harder to explain. So again, investing weeks into rewriting it, and eventually I came up with something else. But she was working on her own code during the time, and she posted something better than previous one, version 2. So perhaps right now my rewriting of version 1 is not really useful, although it works. I provided link into my rewriting of version 1. It is in the assignment 4 itself as an extra reference. I really had to rewrite version 1 a lot because she had, unfortunately, a mixture of older GUI with new GUI. So she had some dialogues from object-oriented GUI and compose mixed together. Because she was mixing this together, a project was kind of has complicated structure in it. So it wasn't copy-pastable for assignment in any sense, because it was complicated structure of the project itself. Also, because of that, she had to deal with styles of two systems, older one GUI and from a new GUI, so it makes it even more complicated. So when I was rewriting it, I removed old code at all, and I created mine. So I had to rewrite dialogues because her dialogues was from older system, and she tried to use it with compose. Okay. Both versions for dialogue had dialogues were used for time and date entry because it was to-do list. So it was entry of date and time when item of to-do list is due. Okay. Her version of that code for entry date and time was buggy. You enter one date and time, you get different date and time. It didn't always happen. It happened like closer to end of the day because it was time zone issue. So I had to fix that one as well. So I rewrote that piece. In version 2, she just removed dialogues at all because she didn't decide is it worth investment of time. So version 2 does not have a due date and time on to-do list. Previous one had, but it was broken. Broken in two senses. First, dialogues were using older GUI inside of new one. Second, it was buggy because you enter one thing and it shows different thing. So version 2 just doesn't have this. So in version 2, to-do list does not have due dates and due time. So instead of fixing her bugs, she just removed code that had bugs. Okay, it's an approach. Okay. In your shopping list, just don't use date and time. This is a simple approach. If you're curious about date and time dialog, you can look up my code where I made it work. But unfortunately, that code had another issue. Yeah, that I inherited from her code. Her code was storing date and time on Firebase as string of date and time separately. That was also a problem related to time zone, because you set it up current date, you go somewhere, date and time, you go somewhere, and it's a different one. And so it is related to time zone. And even worse issue, that is far worse. You cannot sort your lists by due date and time because it is stored as plain string. You cannot easily do sorting in the database, like show me which is due today. So somebody probably told her that it's a problem, or she realized this herself, so she just removed all time and date related stuff. So if you look up my previous code, just ignore the way how it is storing date and time on Firebase because it's wrong. I just copy-pasted her code for storing date and time on Firebase. We do need to store date and time on Firebase as a timestamp. I just didn't have time to rewrite that code a year ago. Okay. We do need to store it using timestamp of Firebase itself, and this is the only way that works right. If you don't believe me, ask AI. I did. And also ask AI how to convert date and time from Firebase to date and time in your Android code, and answer is perfect, you can apply that. So it's not something that we don't know how to do. AI tells you how to do. It is time issue, because I don't have time to write it at this moment. And also it's irrelevant for your assignment at all. It's also irrelevant for quiz at all. Maybe we can store quiz creation date or something like that, but it's not very relevant. So I decided not to invest time into it at this moment. Okay? So bottom line, in her version 1 code for Make It So, in my interpretation of the code, in my version of it, storage of data and time on Firebase is wrong. Don't do it this way. Because if it is done this way, you can never do any sensible way to retrieve information, what is due today, what is due tomorrow, what is due this week. The only way to do that is to store and do database query on Firebase is to store as timestamp on Firebase. That would work, otherwise it won't. So it is related to version 1. Version 2 just doesn't store it. Okay? So she was dealing with the bug by removing code, removing features that had the bug. Okay, why not? So this is about make it so, version 1 and version 2. What about assignment itself? In assignment, assignment says the problem is similar to make it so version 2, and we will look into that. It is definitely better code than version 1. Or to-do list Android, we didn't look in this code. It is my code when I rewrote version 1. Because when I was teaching this course a year ago, version 2 didn't exist. So I created my own version, and I call it to-do list Android. It does have a time and date feature, but it's storing in Firebase the wrong way, so it will not work as if we have a show what is due today, for example. So in order to have a feature what is show to do what is due today, I would need to rewrite how date and time is stored on Firebase, which is a small thing, but I would have to invest some time to doing it. And dealing with the fact that I had lots of grading accumulated, I won't do that this time. Okay? So this is about to-do list. Okay? We will probably look into that. It's not super useful. This is probably more useful, but this is fine as well. Example discussed in our class. Please refer to the latest code in the main code branch as the simplest. By the way, this is not directly from her repository because her repository is not useful when you import code. Issue with her repository because she is storing version 1 and version 2 within the same repository. So you cannot really import it with Android Studio because it is actually 2 projects, not 1. So for this reason, I just copied her version 2 code from her repository and created mine. So we can import it in one step into Android Studio. Because if you try to import her code directly from her repository into Android Studio, it will never work because it will be 2 separate pieces within the same Android Studio piece. Okay? It will not work as the 2 programs. It will be just code that doesn't work. Okay? So I don't know why she's creating this mess, and it's not my responsibility to fix it, but I'm trying to make this course work. So for this reason, I just copy-pasted her version 2 into separate repository. I didn't change much about it. Only versions of the libraries that it is using. Right? I suggest you to reuse GUI from your assignment 2. So, because it is so similar, the program should maintain shopping list item, stick to one list, because using more than one list makes it drastically more complicated. I realize that this with writing quiz, when we have multiple quizzes, GUI becomes more complicated. I make it work nearly perfect with Room. When I was doing with Firebase, I also made it work, but log feature login, because when we store it on the cloud, we need to log in, and we need to deal with user on and off, essentially on every screen that shows data, because if user log it out or information related to the or user was deleted by admin, should not crash the app. So this is an issue. So that is separate piece. And so I decided, okay, it's too much for now, so I stop it. Okay. So, but in your case, you have a similar structure of the code to nodes and to to-do list, and to make it so because it's just one list. So it is simpler code. So stick to that. Speaking about your project, capstone project, most likely you'll have more than one list, right? Or something like that. Hopefully by the time they will fix this and it will be easier. Or just look up my stuff next year for this course. Most likely it will have fixed example. And very likely I will be recording these videos as well next year so you can see explanation of it. On YouTube, obviously you will not have access to a section of this course next year, but you will definitely have access to YouTube. I will keep my account, and I will use the same, my real name. On YouTube, you can look up this through YouTube. Okay? So currently information from Google is minimal. And how to do logins is very minimal. AI helps you, but in many cases it produces you buggy code. Just because it is producing you buggy code, it cannot fix own bugs because it wrote code on assumption that it works by plain logic, right? If it wrote code on assumption that it works, it does not see the mistakes of itself. So, I have to find these mistakes in buggy code myself, and it does require lots of time. So this is current issue with login code and using AI to create it, because it creates buggy code, and AI does not see own bugs, because otherwise it wouldn't create buggy code in the first place. So this is unfortunately situation with login to Firebase and using AI. Okay. So, and this is why I had to put it on hold at this moment. What to submit? As usual, just remove build folders and submit it. There is some specifics about Firebase. In order to make your project work, you have to download file from your Firebase project, and this file helps your app to connect to Firebase. When you submit your assignment, do not remove this file, because if you remove it, I will not be able to compile your code. Okay? This file does not give me access to your Firebase account. I will not be able to see what is inside. The way how they set up this, it will make your project for assignment 4 not completely secure, but this insecurity will be related to assignment 4 project on Firebase. When course is over, you can delete that assignment 4 from Firebase, and it's fine. Okay, so this is like kind of security thing to be aware. So in order to make it secure, you will have to set security rules for assignment 4 project. This will make it secure. Okay, because for Firestore you have an option to set up security rules. So if you set up security rules on Firestore and give me that file together with the assignment, it's fine. I cannot get to hack your assignment 4, and I won't. Okay, even if it's not set up secure rules. Eh? But it is just for information. Do not share that file on web for obvious reasons, because people are different. Some people are nasty, so don't do that. And if you concern it, just when course is over, just delete that assignment 4 project from Firebase. Okay. It does not give anybody login to your Firebase account. It is just, it will stay related, issue will stay related to assignment 4. If some people get access to your downloaded file for your assignment 4 project. I hope it's clear. If there are the questions, just ask. But I need that file submitted to Slate within your project, otherwise I will not be able to compile your code. It will not be compilable. There is no way around it. Do not post your code on GitHub for two reasons. One of the reasons is you shouldn't share your code with other students, right? Another reason, it will contain that file, and you shouldn't share that one. When I provide my own code, this file does not exist in it. I added to git ignore, so when I push my code to Git repository, it does not push in that file. That file is added to git ignore. So when you download my code, you will not be able to compile it. You need to create Firebase account for that project, download that file into the project of Android Studio. After this, it will become compilable. I hope this is clear. If it's not, we will see. Okay, today. So it's about assignment 4. I started discussing this early, so you can start working on it earlier. Okay. So today we will finish notes and we will start example with make it so. Or to-do list, it doesn't really matter. Probably make it so version 2 because it is even simpler than this one. When I was doing that, I didn't touch your messy login logic. And that was quite messy at the time. She fixed this issue in version 2. So version 2 is less messy than version 1 in terms of login code. Right, so this is overall information. Do you have any questions about this? Oh, so let's continue. Where this information is coming from? Definitely there's documentation. Definitely you can ask AI. AI is very helpful in terms of giving information. Unfortunately, when it creates code for specific case, like login into Firebase, it creates bugs that it cannot fix immediately. You have to go around and figure it out, ask multiple questions to different AI to fix issue, because one AI engine has bugs, the other one won't. So you have to shop for information through different AIs in order to figure it out. But in assignment, you don't have to think about that piece. You can copy-paste the logic from the given examples. This is what is probably easiest. And so in assignment, there is a logic in Make It So version 2. There is logic in notes. For login, you can thoughtfully copy-paste that one. There is also logic in a list, like to-do list, which is similar to version 1 logic in Make It So. There is a code here in week 1, mock Firebase authentication Android. This is AI-generated code. I was talking to AI for more than 1 day to make this code. This code appears not to be buggy, but it is not Firebase code. It's imitation. So I didn't see bugs there. Bugs came up when I started to make it more realistic, because I have multiple things on my screen. Like I had a list of lists and all these things. And when I started to modify this code, bugs showed up. So this particular code, which is imitation of login into Firebase, doesn't look like it has bugs. But I didn't really check it. So just play with it, but do not rely on it. Okay. It is probably a useful learning experience, but it's not. One more thing to be aware that came up from talking to AI. This is really an interesting point, but since it had happened in my code, be aware of it, because I wasn't aware of it. Because again, Google doesn't say anything about it. It appears like it's an issue that was created by Google misdesigning their Compose project, a Compose library. In my opinion, it's just misdesigning. So they created an issue and they didn't talk about it. Only like some people talk about it, but they don't tell like to broad audience. And it came up in discussion with AI. So it is not Firebase related, it's not login related, but it is related to my code. So I need to tell you to be honest about it. Because my math example uses this, and it appears fine. But according to Google, that piece is not fine. So you need to know about it, so I'm not like lying or misinforming you. So before we go to today's discussion, I want to let you know about one piece that is not perfect in the code of math example that I was using. So math trainer, there is a version of math trainer that has room only in it. Room only, no Firebase. Check out. Okay, so I will run it to tell you about this issue. I noticed interesting thing about simple examples from Google related to Google courses. If you scan through the examples, like learning how to do it, you will realize very interesting thing, that there is not even one example with navigation that is using navigation bar. This is really strange, right? They had multiple examples with navigation, but none of them is using navigation bar in that courses. This is weird, and it looks strange. They have example that is using navigation bar, but it's not using navigation. Also strange. Apparently, it relates to the fact that navigation bar doesn't always work well with navigation. That they don't tell people right away. Okay? So, apparently, in order to make it work reasonably well, navigation bar must be outside of navigation window, not inside. Because when it is inside, we have a stability of the screen issue, and screen was kind of trying to rewrite itself, so it doesn't appear well for small amount of time after navigation. So it's not crazy issue, but it's a kind of not perfection issue. So if navigation bar is inside of navigation window, when you navigate to that screen doesn't look well for very small fraction of second on the screen, that makes it look not perfect. Okay? So in order to avoid discussion they do not have any example with navigation bar and navigation together. But if you talk about AI, it will talk to AI, it will eventually come up. All right? So where does it show up in this example? So when I go to quiz and I go to problems, like a first problem is a quiz, I do have navigation bar here. It is inside of navigation window, and it was the simplest way to do it this way. So when I go to next problem, it is just navigating from one window to another one. Please notice on the screen that navigation bar at the bottom is flashing slightly. You see, it is flashing slightly when I navigate. Okay? This is side effect of the thing that navigation bar is inside of navigation window. So it is rewriting navigation bar when I navigate. See? But this is not actual issue of rewriting this. Screen itself has very tiny instability due to presence of navigation bar in the window. And screen jumps up and down for tiny fraction of the second when it's doing rewriting. We do not see it, but it happens. Okay? So if navigation bar is inside of navigation window, like you have a scaffold that is called the navigation bar and toolbar at the same time. This is what I have here. On navigation, it's not just rewriting navigation bar, which is, yeah, okay, because toolbar is also, this top bar is also rewritten. It's unavoidable. So, yeah, it's rewritten. Okay, who cares? Issue is that content of the screen is jumping for tiny fraction of a second up and down when we do navigation. They even have a name for it. Okay, this is stability of the screen issue. And when you have navigation bar in the scaffold together with stop bar, and you navigate from screen to the screen and scaffold stands inside of navigation window, content of the scaffold will jump for tiny fraction of a second and up and down after navigation. That may or may not appear to the user, but screen will look smashed for some small fraction of time. Okay. Google doesn't tell about this explicitly. A few people know about it, only people who actually run into it. AI tells you about it if you ask. So I was trying to figure out the issue, and I didn't fix it here. And on one day, Gemini was saying one thing, on another day, it was saying different thing. The same Gemini from Google, okay? So eventually, I asked a direct question to Gemini. If instead of navigation bar, I don't use, for example, scaffold, but instead of scaffold, I will just use column, and I put button, just one button at the bottom of the column. Whatever screen we use, column, it will have something at the bottom, like a button. Why we wouldn't have instability in that case, or we would? It appears like we shouldn't, right? Because every screen does have something at the bottom, right? And if it creates instability, it's serious bug. So it shouldn't create bug if you have something at the bottom of the screen, right? Because every screen has something at the bottom. So that was the question, like if we have just a button at the bottom of the screen and we do not use scaffold, we have column and just button. We do not have instability, or we shouldn't at least, right? Next, let's replace that button with navigation bar inside of the column. Just column, not scaffold, just a column. Would we have instability? Because navigation bar is composable, column is composable, why would we have one? The answer was, on one day from Gemini, it said it will have, which looks totally senseless to me. On next day, Gemini says it wouldn't have, which looks more logical. Apparently, AI is not always consistent. So on next day, answer was more logical. If you have a just column without scaffold, and you have a just navigation bar at the bottom of it, and answer was affirmative next day from Gemini, that you wouldn't have instability, it will be just fine, and even created the code as an example. If you want, you can use it. No issue. Provided it's not a scaffold, it's just a column. It's even created code. But what would be issue if you stick to it? Issue is that if you use animation, like sliding left, right, if it is part of the screen, it will slide with the screen and come again, right? Because it will replace, and now we replace it with kind of flash, right? So if we use it as a part of the screen using column, it will slide to the left and come again. So it will appear like kind of minor issue, but it's kind of unpleasant, right? if you use animation and with sliding. So navigation bar will slide left or whatever animation do it and come again, which is weird. So in this case, it will look strange. Without animation, it won't. So answer is affirmative. If it is just the bottom of the screen wrapped in column, not scaffold, that it's not it's not an issue. And if it is inside of the scaffold, but not as a bottom bar, but inside of the column, it won't be issue. But issue is that if it is bottom bar of itself, scaffold itself, you can put it in the body as a column. So it is fine. So issue comes how scaffold is creating screen. And in my opinion, it's a bug of scaffold. In Gemini, it says it's not a bug, it's a feature. Okay, whatever. So, bottom line. A best idea is to keep it outside of navigation window, it is definitely, but it will create more complicated code. If we really want to go around it, we can put it in the column of the screen itself. So wrap screen inside of, wrap screen as a column and put it at the bottom of the column. Do not put it as a bottom bar of scaffold because this creates jumping of the screen. In my opinion, it is bug. In their opinion, it's a feature, whatever, okay? All right? This is not, you don't see this jumping, I don't see it either, but they claim that it happens, okay? Right? So, a quick fix for me would be to create a column in this area. To create a column and put this at the bottom of the column. Do not keep it outside as a part of the scaffold. This will be a quick fix. But it will not fix animation because if we enable animation, this will slide with the screen. If animation is slide left, for example, slide right, which looks strange. But this will slide with animation as well. Top one. So, and keeping top bar out of window is not necessarily a fix either. Because, let me show. It's not here. Oh, yeah, it's here. You see, it's linked. If it is outside of navigation window, how would you create that? No way. Okay? So it's a trade-off. You can keep it outside of navigation window, but you cannot do that. Okay? Like folding it, right? So it's an interesting issue to handle. So there are trade-offs. Just be aware of it. Okay? According to Gemini, keeping top bar inside of navigation window is considered okay. Keeping bottom bar inside of navigation window is not okay if it is part of scaffold. If you put it inside of the column as just last element of the column of the screen, it appears it's okay, but when you navigate with animation, it will slide out of the screen with content, which will appear strange, but it's only the case for animation. Okay? In current situation, this is not navigation bar, it's just buttons at the bottom, and was my direct question to Gemini, why we cannot, if we just put button on the, why it shouldn't create instability, right? Any screen contains something at the bottom, right? It's unavoidable, or CPS lowest element. So on previous day, Gemini was probably maybe didn't misunderstand me, or just I don't know. Answer was like it was still unstable. That if navigation bar is just part of column. But next day when I said okay, let's put button and let's put button, it's not unstable. What is the difference if I put instead of button navigation bar? And it eventually gave up and said, yes, it will be stable. Okay? So you can extract information with it with logic. This is to be aware of it. This is fine, but when we go to the list, and when we go to item, this piece, in order to make it perfect, has to be inside of the column of the screen. Make it its column. Put it not in scaffold, but make it as a part of the screen that is navigating, right? So this will be also okay. Best idea is to keep it outside of navigation window. This will not slide when you do replacing with navigation. So that came up from talking to AI. So AI can tell you a lot, even if Google hides it from you. Okay? And it appears that Google tries to avoid this issue because in Google courses, none of the examples do have navigation bar that is using navigation, which is really consistent, right? But they do have navigation bar in the example that is not using navigation. It is faking navigation with flags. Right? So this was learning experience. And it's quick fix and just didn't bother. Okay. And again, we don't see this jumping, but again, according to Gemini, it happens, but just it is fraction of second, and it makes screen kind of weird for fraction of second. Okay. So again, whatever. This is another issue related to artificial intelligence. Okay. So now let's go to topic of Firebase itself. Where this information is coming from? Continuing. In 12, add Firebase to Android app. It goes to Unit 5 of the Google course that is not linked to main page. I was trying to find it through main page, didn't come up. It used to be part of the main page. Now they somehow hiding it from main page, but it exists. It is the only course that contains Firebase in it. And if we dive into that, previous units are not helpful. Previous units are just copy-paste from course that we already have. Okay? And if you go here, you will realize that why it's not super helpful. The reason is that this unit relies on your knowledge of Hilt dependency injection, which is fine with you because I explained it. But previous course doesn't. And previous units in this course, this one, also don't explain. So that one was one of the issues. Also, original example relies on using older system together with new, and this claims that it is using compose, but which is not the case for older example. Right? So because it was mixture, but now it's not. So that issue is fixed. So when you go through that, it will be video, and eventually it would be some links to information. You see link to article. And this link to article is going to blog of Marina Kaelha. So I created link to that blog of Marina Kaelha, or Kaelha, I'm not sure how to pronounce, right here. So it is the same blog. She is explaining this example step by step, like a page of explanation, next page of explanation. She goes in very deep details, but she's omitting navigation logic. Because probably she knows that that piece sucks. I don't know exactly why she's omitting it, but probably she knows that piece sucks, so she's not mentioning it. Okay? So, but the rest of it is quite well explained. Okay? So, this. So this is about example called Make It So. Unfortunately, she explains details of it for version 1. Version 2, she doesn't have variant for it. But main difference is in navigation, because in version 1 it's sucked, in version 2 it's better. But this example didn't explain version 1 navigation anyway, so it applies. So this is a reasonable explanation, a reasonable thing to read for theory, and a reasonable kind of overview of the code. But details are different. Unfortunately, details are different, but main ideas are the same. So this is nice place to read. Just ignore that it links to version 1 of the code, but general ideas are the same between version 1 and version 2. So this is good source of information. Okay. And it is linked to piece of unit of some course that is not so great. This is why they move it away links from the front page. All right, so this is the main source of information. Another piece is documentation of file store itself, and most important, your AI. So if something is not clear, it's not clear from her blog, ask AI. Answers from AI sensible. Code which is not related to complicated login logic is also correct most of the time. So it's another good source of information. I use a Gemini for that. So this is our main source of information. Definitely there are examples that doing something similar. Instead of it is doing examples are for notes or to-do lists. In your case it is shopping list, so logic shouldn't be very different. Because structurally shopping list is not super different from to-do list. Okay? So next. So let's go with the simpler one, notes. We already cloned it last time, and we ran it this last time. In order to run it, if you missed that lesson, you need to create project on Firebase. So I don't want to repeat it. I just go with my explanation for now, without that repetition. I will post that video on YouTube tonight. At previous lessons that discusses this one. I need to cut out some pieces already discussed. Which one? So I won't. And the rest is not related to logic. So what I cut out is not related to logic. All right. So I will post that video, and after this we will pick this one and create that project again on Firebase, but for this particular case. So if you missed it last time, you will see it this time. Okay. So this is the idea. So let's we'll clone it. So let's find it. It's the place where it is cloned. By the way, okay, we will return to this later. It's not an issue. I will close this one. And I will open notes, how we had it last time. This one. When we created this project on Firebase, we didn't upload security configuration, security rules to file store. We set it up, just allow any app that has a key to access this piece. Any app that has file, like Google Services file, to have access to it. This is why I say that Google Services file is kind of critical if security rules are not set up. Okay, you shouldn't you shouldn't post it on web anyway, but if security rules for Firestore are not set up, this is access to your project, not access to your account, but access to your project. and also access to user data if it's actually real users in your project. Okay. Unless you set up rules, correct? How to set up rules? AI will help you. If you ask Gemini engine here, go to agent and ask how to set up rules for this project. For Firestore, it will make you one. Check it yourself. If it looks logical, probably it is. Okay. So otherwise, look up in documentation how to set it up. So for this project, rules are stored here. If you go to project files, not Android, you will find it Firestore rules, this file. Firestore rules in the project does not do anything absolutely. In order for them to work, you need to upload it to Firebase separately. Okay? So it is just for convenience of distribution, this with the same project. But it does make sense to keep it there. Why it makes sense to keep it there in the project? Because we can test project that is using Firebase without Firebase. We can run project that is using Firebase without Firebase. How it happens? We have Android emulator, so we can run Android applications without actual Android phone, correct? There is also Firebase emulator. So on your laptop, you can install Firebase emulator and run Android project using Firebase emulator, so it's not going to real Firebase. Okay? And when you do this setup, security rules is in your Android project. So it is not just convenience for me to give this file to you. It's also convenience if we install it. I did install. If we install Firebase emulator on your laptop, you can run Firebase code on the emulator, but you need to change it slightly. Okay? There is also, remember, there is also testing, right? So when we write code, we want to test it automatically. By adding something, removing something, checking something, right? It's called unit tests. You can do unit tests for almost anything. In Android, we just kept it simple for calculation tasks, right? But you can do unit tests for anything in Android app, and when you do so, it's better to be reproducible tests, right? So if something goes wrong, you can trace the issue. Okay. So if you do tests for local database, it will be some limitation of that in memory, so you can create a case and check adding to database, removing, and that's so on. This will make the tests reproducible. So it will make it a little faster, but it will check logic of your code. You can do similar thing with Firebase. So if you set up Firebase emulator, you can run automatic testing of your project on Firebase emulator. And this way you can check logic of your app without actually sending your data to Firebase and getting this back and cleaning this up there. So it's another thing is to learn, if you care, invest your time, how to set up Firebase emulator on your laptop, so you can do testing with Firebase without actually going into Firebase. You can also connect your project temporarily in your code to local emulator on Firebase, so it is not involving real Firebase. Where does it make sense? It does, actually. It does make sense. Because not everything on Firebase is free. Something is free, something is not. Some features you have to pay for. When you use emulator, everything is for free because it's on your laptop. So you can experiment with not free features as much as you want. Okay, so this is of course emulator has limits as well, so it doesn't emulate entire Firebase. But there are pieces on emulator that are free, obviously, because everything else is free, but on Firebase they're not free. So investing your time into learning how to use emulator for Firebase really worth the effort. I just don't want to do it in class. Okay, so there is such thing as a Firebase simulator. When you may find some issue when you run tests on Firebase simulator, because tests are designed in such a way that it will have a fresh start each time. So if you run Firebase tests with emulator, it will clean up content of Firebase right after each test. It means you will never see stuff on the screen of Firebase emulator because it's already cleaned it up by your test. So this is definitely inconvenience, right? You can check that it was sent, data was sent. You can check that data was received, right? You can edit the data with your test and check that it was actually making it easy inside of emulator. But you will never see it on the screen of the emulator when this is happening because it's happening fast. And when your test is over, screen is clean. Okay, so this is to be aware of. But when you set up it as a part of your app, you can see it. So it is test separate issue because tests are running fast, and it will clean up Firebase each time, so you won't see the stuff. But when you use it with use your app as actual emulator for your app, not as a test, you will see it. Okay. So it's a good time investment if you want to invest into Android programming after this course. Okay. Regarding assignment, not a good way to spend your time. Okay, you will spend days to set it up. Just say no to it for now. Later, yes, not for assignment. All right. If you run emulator, it will be, this file will be here in your project. Okay. All right. So let's let's go to Firebase project for this that we created last time. It was Firebase google.com. Get started, and I call it this note in class. So last time when we were setting this up, we went here in settings, project settings, and we sorry.
What are you looking for?
Android, 1 second. General. Oh, it's already here. Android app. You see, we added. And if you need to add more, it will ask you which one. We already added. We can add one more in Android. And in order to run it, you need to download this file into your project. After creating project on Firebase, you need to download this file into the project on your laptop. Otherwise, it will not compile. This file Google Services JSON. So this Google Services JSON is not showing up in if you go with Android like that. it will not be in app folder. You see, app does not have it. But if you switch it to project files, you will see it. In app, it is this Google Services to JSON. How to edit? You download this into downloads folder, just manually drag and drop, and it's done. I added this file to git ignore, so when I post my code to GitHub, it's not going there. And this is why you didn't get it when you downloaded it. Because I don't want you to link your app into a project on my Firebase. I want you to, because you will not see content of it. Because my project on Firebase, I need to log in into it using my Google login. That I will not share with you, obviously. So it is the reason for you that to create accounts, to create project, not account, to create project for this code in your account. When you give me your code, it should have this file, and I will not be able to see what is going on Firebase site, which is fine with me. It is extra time for me to check, so which is fine. Plus, it's impossible. So we could actually use emulator, and if we use emulator, I would be able to do that to see what is going on in Firebase. I just don't want to bother. Okay. As long as it's working, you will get full credit. I will look through code briefly. I will see that it's using Firebase, it's not fake. And if it is working, it's fine. I will not be able to check what is going on Firebase site because obviously I don't have access to it. So I will briefly just look through code. If it's working, it's fine. Okay. But I need this file in order to compile it, otherwise it will not be compilable. Okay. So this is something to be aware of. Security rules. Security rules here is a file, but it is not there automatically. When we go to build in Firestore is actual database used in this case. See, there is a node, and every node has a field user ID. This is how this project is set it up, so other user will not be able. This is how it is set up, so it can distinguish my nodes from another node that is using the same app. Okay? So in this case, it will be different users, but she is not creating user entries. User entry is not there. She is just using user ID inside of each node. So when app is running, it is checking, doing query against given user ID. Next, where its rules are set up. Rules are set up here. When you create project, it will create limitation for the time. Inside of if it will be time something less than some date. Okay. You can definitely change it to the future. If you want to make it forever, put it true. But again, it's a bad idea because in real life scenario, we need to set up rules, not to make it, keep it open forever. Because I changed this for true, it means it's open forever, but it won't be forever because I will delete this piece anyway. Okay. How to set up rules? You get rules file and you copy paste it here. So let's do the magic. You get a rules file or generate this using AI and check that it makes sense. So I do this like this, copy, and I paste it here. So it is editing, right? Copy pasting is editing. So after every edit, you need to enable it because it doesn't know what happened. You just copy pasted stuff into the browser window. So in order to make it work, you need to say publish. So Firebase will know about these rules. So it will apply them each time when Firebase talks to apps. Okay. So I go with publish, and it says published. All right. So this is how to apply rules. But you need to have a file or write it yourself or ask AI to do that and check it so it makes sense. All right, so now let's dive into app itself. So in order to make Firebase work in your Android projects, you need two things. You need to go to Firebase and create that Google Services file, download it and put it into app folder. It's one thing. Second, you need to add libraries related to Firebase. Otherwise, it wouldn't work without it, right? So next step is to look into libraries that Firebase you need to use for Firebase access. Which libraries to include really depends on your project, because projects might have multiple features. Do you have a question?
Can you take a break?
Yeah, sure. So before, yes, let's have a break. This is a good point. So let's have a break. So we're starting after break. Now we dive into the code. Next step is to look inside of the libraries, because creating account on Firebase and downloading file, which is Google Services.json file, is not enough. We need to include libraries that are related to your Firebase and your project. Libraries that do depends on what features of the libraries, what features of the Firebase you use in your project. This project will use exactly the same library. This project is using exactly the same library as your assignment. So it is safe just to copy paste them if you don't want to spend time on figuring out how to do it in your assignment. All right. So let's open that. I'm switching to Android. And as you already know from previous projects, there are lib versions to MML that mentions versions of libraries used in the project and their names this way. And we have two other files, to build files related to the libraries and plugins. One, it is global project, and one, it is module app. Complicated projects may have more than one module. This has one. And by default, it comes with one app. So I assume that in your assignment, you will probably just use everything like it's here, because this will be simplest. Unless you want to experiment and spend half day on figuring it out. So let's see what we have. At the top, it is not default. We had to add things in order to make it work. This project is using a Hilt, and because original code used Hilt, and all other examples are using Hilt that coming from Google. So unless you want to invest in insane amount of time to figure out how not to use Hilt, use Hilt. Okay. So we included Hilt, and this is Hilt version, and we'll see the libraries here. Hilt is using KSP in this project, so we included KSP and Hilt because of it. This project is using Hilt view model, so we included this for sake of with Compose. So we included this for sake of using view model with Hilt. Also, we use Hilt and navigation with view models together. So this is for sake of using Hilt view models, Hilt and navigation together. So it is related to using Hilt view models, this one. So let's generalize. These pieces, what we see, are not related to Firebase at all. We would have it in any advanced project in this course. KSP, Hilt view model, and navigation when Hilt is involved. That will make view models attach it to destinations if you declare them in destinations. So it will be per screen view models this way. Next, we have Kotlin X serialization. Previously, we learned that we can use navigation where destinations are marked with strings. So every destination is described as a string. Or we can use destination is route. So every route is a string. So let's call it route. Destination is the same as route. So let's call it route. So in the simplest case scenario, and it is considered a little dated approach, destination is a string or route is a string. In fancy approach, which is current approach, but unfortunately Google courses didn't update to it. Routes are serializable objects. In Node's example, original code was using strings. But when the author converted project, make it so version 1 to make it so version 2, she converted strings to serializable objects. So another example from the same author, version 2, make it so, is using serializable objects. To state compatible this code and second code that we will use, I converted this code to use serializable objects, to have kind of similarities, right? So it's not totally different. So for this reason, I'm including Kotlin X serialization. When we use this approach, we also need to include plugin Kotlin X serialization because this should work together. So it is for Kotlin X serialization. At the bottom, it is not for downloading stuff from web. It is specifically, in this particular case, it is specifically to do navigation between screens using serializable objects as routes. This. Right? And now next. When we use Firebase, we have two routines. Actually, there's three. This is to use Firebase. So we included Firebase BOM. What is Firebase BOM? It is some kind of, what is called? BOM. Bill of materials. Bill of materials. It is an entry that describes versions of other libraries used together. So it is, say, version of a collection of libraries, I would say. Bill of materials, it's a version of a collection of libraries. So Firebase BOM, it's a version of collection of libraries related to Firebase. So this one, it's not libraries itself, it's a collection of, version of collection of libraries. Because we use Firebase BOM here, libraries related to Firebase, you see Firebase auth does not have version in it, because it comes from Firebase BOM. Also, Firebase file store, you don't see separate version for it, okay? Because it is defined by Firebase BOM. Okay. So what is BOM, Bill of Materials? It's a collection, version of collection of libraries, essentially. Okay. So Firebase here and Firestore do not have version mentioned because it is here. Firebase BOM is also separate entry here. So it's kind of collection of things mentioned. It's mentioning of collection, essentially. Okay. All right. So in the entry of libraries, I have serialization for JSON, right? It is for routes, field-related stuff. authentication, it is to use login into Firebase, because if we use a store data per user, we need to users to log in, right? So this is for your users to log in, not you to log in, it is for users of your app to log in. Firebase Auth. Firebase File Store, it is database that this project is using. Coroutines place services. It is, I look it through the through website, I ask it AI, and in all cases they say if you use Firebase you have to include Google services and Kotlin X coroutine place services. If we use Firebase with Kotlin, we have to have these two as well, besides Firebase explicitly. All right? So these libraries. We do need to add plugins. I already mentioned plugin for Kotlin serialization. This is related to navigation system that we use serializable objects as routes. We need to include Google services as a plugin. It is a requirement of Firebase. We also have a plugin for Hilt, but we had it before. We also have plugin for KSP. We also had it before. Because KSP is required by Hilt and also required by Room. So we had it in previous projects. Our Composite is for the screen, and this is for specific for Android. So and this is also for Android application. And this is for Android and Kotlin. This is for Android application in general. So this is description of what we need. It is in .ml file, so it is safe to copy paste it in your project. No big deal. Just copy paste it if you want to keep it simple. About updating these numbers. You can keep it, you can update it. If you update it, you're taking some risk. Because a project may stop working. Because some incompatibilities. It was current between versions of libraries. A couple of days ago it was current, now it's not. So it is changing rapidly and it's not changing drastically. So in most cases it will be safe to update it, but if you don't want to have trouble, extra trouble, just keep it. Okay? Just keep it for your assignments this way. Next, a couple of days it was current, now it's not. Couple of days ago it was current. So next, we need to go to projects which is global. We see project nodes, which is build Gradle, which is global, and include those plugins explicitly. Here it is: KSP plugin, Hilt plugin, Kotlin serialization plugin, Google services plugin. When you do on the first page TomML, you click synchronize. When you go on this page, you also click synchronize. It is elephant button here. It may complain that you included plugin, but you didn't include library. Okay, just ignore it. Because you didn't include libraries yet. It is natural. Next, you go to app module and include those libraries into app module. At the top, you mention the same plugins again. KSP plugin, Hilt plugin, Kotlin serialization plugin, Google services plugin. Next, at the below, you add these libraries here. You see, I added Hilt, 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 Hilt. Serialization, it is for serializable routes, serializable objects using as routes, and coroutines for place services. This is Firebase store plus Firebase stuff. You see, coroutines for place services, Firebase BOM, Firebase Firestore, Firebase authentication. Okay? Without it, your assignment will not work. So you have to be careful that it is there. Okay? If you want to copy paste entire piece, be careful about this one. Let me show, because this will be different in your project. Okay? It will be packaged for your project. So this will be definitely different in one. Do not copy paste entire file, because this will create trouble. Okay? Just copy paste pieces of this file, not entire piece. All right? And after editing this file, you click to synchronize. When I grade your assignment, I will open this file and see that it's not using room, right? So, you are, although you are reusing GUI from your assignment 2, you are not reusing saving data from your assignment, obviously, because if you reuse saving data from your assignment 2, it is just assignment 2. Okay. So when I grade your assignment, I will open this file, module app, and I scroll it to make sure there's no room libraries in this project. Okay. And there is nothing suspicious. So this is how I do know, because I will know. I will not be able to go to Firebase because it is in your Google account, right? And I will see that project is working, it is saving data, I stop your app and I start it again, I will see the same data that I entered, so it is obviously saving it. All right. So this is about libraries. And next, let's browse through the project. I rearranged stuff inside of the project slightly to make it more obvious. Okay? But I still keep the same idea. This folder, it is for dependency injection, and it's called service module. Why it is called service module? In her naming convention for this project, she used service not as something running in the background of your app. In her naming convention here, service is just repository. She just called it differently. Okay. So it is probably something slightly out of date, but people do that. So in this code, service is just a repository. It is also a difference between make it so version 1 and make it so version 2. In make it so version 1, she used the word service for repositories. In version 2, she renamed this to repository. So somebody taught her probably, or she realized that it's not a great idea. In your assignments, just make it work. All right? Call it repository, call it service, it's your choice. So model typically this stuff. This is DI, it is for dependency injection. So this functionality, you see login service and account service and storage service are injected into view models. Okay? So model, functionality, and data classes. So she created these two data classes. A node, it is for node data, user, kind of to user data, but it is not stored on Firebase. So it is for internal logic here to store user login info. It is not stored in FireStore. It is stored in authentication system. So on Firebase, there are two places that this project is using. To store login information for users of your app, and another place to store data of the user nodes. Okay. So this user is related to the storage of login information. Nodes are in FireStore. Okay. Login is in authentication service. So two different places where this stuff lives. Okay. Now in services, she declared interfaces of those services to make it clear what this UI needs. So account service, these are calls used by UI. So they are declared inside of this interface. full accounting for account actions like login, logout, and this stuff you see. She calls sign in, it is login. Sign out is logout. Storage service, it's about storing nodes. Technically anything is the storage, okay, bad naming, but we can understand what it means. Okay. So account service, it is to store login stuff and update login stuff. Storage, it is to store and update nodes. So this is declaration for the UI, what this program needs. She keeps implementation of the interfaces in a separate folder. So this is how it is implemented. So there is interface and implementation of the interface as actual class. So if we open that, we will see that we use dependency injection to inject these services in some places, right? But this is when we use class and use inject in front of constructor, this will make the system to create this object automatically when it's necessary, but it won't know where to inject it. Why? Because place for injection is marked with repository name, with interface name, interface name. And interface name is not this class name. So it needs to, Hilt dependency injection system needs to link interface name and implementation name. Okay. For this reason, we have dependency injection information here in service module that links names of interface and name of implementation. See? So this exists, in particular case, binds exist to create binding or connection between implementation of the interface and, which is input here, and actual interface. So when some place in the code mentions interface, it will know which implementation to inject. Even if you have one, you still need to link it. It is a requirement of Hilt. Other dependency injection systems do not have such requirement, but in this case, Hilt does. All right? So this is about implementations. We will dive into implementation, but first let's go around the project first. Next, let's look inside of UI. In UI, we have a folder of screens. It is replaceable part. Not some replace. This is common part, but this is replaceable parts on the screen. Theme, it is obviously, it is theme of the app, and it is default one. So before we go into UI, so let's start with here, Hilt. Hilt is necessary, declaring Hilt Android app. Sorry, Hilt Android app is to create Android application class used by Hilt for dependency injection. Otherwise, Hilt will not work. When we create this application class implementing application, doesn't matter if we use Hilt or we don't use Hilt, we need to mention it in a manifest file. Otherwise, your program will crash when it starts. Here it is. You see, it is here, nodes Hilt app. Next, main activity. This is what is launched when we click icon on the screen. As you see, nodes app is inserted into activity. So it is entire screen. It is a Google convention to call it something app. It is a root screen. It is everything on the screen, or root of the tree for the screen. I call it root screen. They call it something app, like nodes app. So this is the entire thing on the screen. So let's look inside of these nodes app. I moved it here because this is technically the screen that we see. nodes app. So in the nodes app, what do we see? We see scaffold and nav host inside of scaffold. So it is sort of related to the stuff that we discussed in the beginning of the second half, and it is drawn on a whiteboard, like in colors, right? So I will probably post this on slide to have reference to it. So she has scaffold around nav host. And inside of this nav host, she has screens. Okay. Original code was using routes that are strings. I recorded it to match her version 2 of what is called version 2 of Make It So, because version 2 of Make It So is using serializable objects as routes. So now it is using serializable objects as routes. Which of them? Nav list, nav details, sign in and sign up, and splash screen. All of them are serializable objects or classes created, or objects created from classes. So let's find them. As they live here in node routes, you see that routes, it is base class, not base class, a base interface for those objects to wrap them together. What does it mean sealed means? Sealed means you cannot extend it outside of the file. Okay? So, not extend, implement it outside of the file. So you see that Splash is implementing routes, right, or extending routes. Nodes is in routes, okay, signing routes. So they implement it all inside of the file. I could not implement it outside because it's sealed. So this is your sealed interface. When you define routes as serializable and the implement interface, we also have to write this serializable. I asked Gemini, should we write word data in front of, between object and Splash, object and this, object and this. Definitely we should do it here. No, not in front, between. It is data object, so it is here, data object. Okay? Should we use data here? Answer is not certain. Answer is good idea. Because issue is that, not issue, reason is that data objects didn't exist before. And it was some time when we had data classes but not data objects. So older code may not necessarily have data object, but they have data classes. So in this case, it is that case. So data class. Okay? Why I don't have a word data in front of object? Because I didn't catch it, essentially. Okay? It works this way, but if you add word data there, it will look more modern. Okay? So also Gemini was helping me. Gemini didn't add word data. And I didn't actually catch it. Later when I was talking to Gemini, and Gemini said that it's a good idea to add it. Okay, so Gemini actually contradicts itself sometimes. Bottom line, if it is not there, it works. If you add it, perhaps it will be better. Okay. But you definitely need it here in front of class. And this is just default ID, use it in this logic. So if we specify -1, it will create new one. So this is the hack essentially. I use it by original authorship. So when we navigate to item with ID -1, it will create new one. It will not try to find it. So it's a hack, essentially. So our routes are serializable objects or serializable classes. So why it is class? Because it contains node ID. So each time it is different. So when we navigate to node ID, for example, 2 or whatever is there, it's a string, right? So we create object from this class and navigate to that. So we will call constructor. All right? So let's see how it works. Going back to nodes app here. So when we navigate to splash, we call a clear and navigate splash. And when we navigate to this, we sign up. It is just clearing to sign up. When we navigate to something that is related to node details, we need to specify which node details, right? This is default. It means we're creating screen, right? So from a list screen, there is a button to create new node. So it is used this way. But there is also on the list of screen, there is a option to navigate to current item. So when we click on item, it will call this route node details, and this is specific ID that we click it. So it will create an object for the specific ID and navigate to that. When we click on create new, the add node, there is a button for that. It will call node details, but it will give you ID -1. And when we navigate to that screen, it will check, oh, ID -1, it means I shouldn't like look for the data, I will create just new object for it. Okay. And so this is the internal hack for this project. Okay. Right. These are mentioning just names of those either classes or objects used as routes. What is app state? In this example, we are not calling navigate and .navigate. We are not calling navcontroller.navigate, right? In most other examples, we saw navcontroller.navigate or navcontroller.popUpStack. In this project, we don't see navcontroller.navigate or navcontroller.popUpStack because she tried to replace default navigator with some wrapper that she created. So she created convenience wrapper around navigation, nav controller. Okay. So, and she called this app state. So it is convenience wrapper. So in this case, she is calling remember app state. This is function that is using nav controller inside. So it's a wrapper. So here it is. Remember AVP state, and you see inside of a remember nav controller wrapper. Nodes app state nav controller. And this is remember nav controller. Okay, her decision. I decided to keep it. Okay. So instead of using nav controller, she created wrapper class around nav controller for convenience, essentially. You can stick to that, or you don't have to, it's your choice. If you want to keep exactly the same navigation logic, which probably will be a lot simpler, instead of reinventing something, stick to that if you want, okay? But you can still reuse all your GUI, no big deal. Because navigation should be kind of separate from the GUI, and it is separate. All right, so where is app state defined? It is here. Nodes app state, as you see, it's a separate class. Stable means you can wrap it inside of. Stable means you can wrap it inside of remember. If you don't use anything fancy in it, you can, essentially. It's a marker. So, in your assignment, you can just copy-paste the entire piece. If you want, keep it like it is. So it's a wrapper. It's a wrapper class. To do pop-up, so it is short. For this, it is exactly the same. You see pop-up stack. But for others, there is extra information. Okay. So when we navigate, in this case, it says, do not duplicate it on navigation stack. What is for? Because if we have some piece on toolbar, if you click it multiple times, if it is the same location, like you have a toolbar with home screen, and you're already on the home screen, you click on this multiple times, so it will not create duplication in your history. It says single tool. Do not duplicate it if you're already there. So it's a convenience wrapper. Next, we have navigate and pop-up. So what is for? It is launch single top, do not duplicate what you have here. And if you want to clean up what is in front of it, you can specify remove stuff up to this point. It is used when it is used in login system here. If you go to login screen, you don't want to keep it in the history because when you go back, what you already logged in doesn't make sense. So she's used this navigation trick to remove login screen from the history. It is navigate and pop-up. Clear and navigate. What it does, it's not popping up to a certain point, it is removing everything from the history and add new navigation entry. So it is used to navigate to home screen when we log out. Why? Because when we log out, we will have a history of previous locations that needs the data to show. Right? But since we log it out, we cannot access the data. So those screens can potentially crash you up or will be empty depending on your situation. So she's using this whole navigate to home screen with erasing history, navigation history, after logout. So those screens in the history will not show up when you try to click like back button or something like that. Because otherwise we may end up on the screen that is either crashing up because it's written such way, or showing empty screen because it cannot access data. Something broken. So in order to avoid such situations, she decided, okay, we'll log out, so let's erase navigation history. So that is used in that case scenario. So it's about navigation. Next, let's look at back to app, notes app here. In the nav host, this is the place where we insert items, replaceable items. We see that start destination is splash screen. What is for? It's a hack again. As I already mentioned before, there is no exact direct recommendation from Google how to log in from Android app to Firebase. Okay, just it's a lack of information. So every example, it's some kind of hack of various degrees of cleverness or stupidity, whatever. So, and this is hack, essentially. So when app is starting, it shows splash screen for fraction of some time, like 1 second. So, and when it is showing this screen, it is trying to log in. Okay. Issue with this hack. What if it cannot log in during the time? I tried to turn off internet. It will just freeze. So it's not perfect at all. Okay. So You can try it, okay? So this is what I say, that there is no exact direct prescription from Google, unfortunately, how to log into Firebase, and every hack is some kind of hack, still in various degrees of cleverness or stupidity, okay? So this is kind of intermediate, and it had issues, all right? So, now what is time? We need to finish, unfortunately. Ouch. Okay, it's not too big deal. So, we will dive into that in the beginning of the next lesson, and most likely we will finish this and cover most of the second example. I have no intention to go to every line, as long as I explain Firebase logic, how it's actually getting and sending data, and how it is entering user information in order to create an account. The rest is just a GUI logic, and you're familiar with pure GUI logic, so it shouldn't be an issue. So explanation of Firebase logic in this app should not take longer than 20 minutes in the next lesson, or half an hour top, or maybe up to 1 hour. And similar thing in to-do list, or make it so version 2. We can finish it next lesson, most of it. Okay. So you will have entire week, slightly more, to do assignment. You can start doing it or still thinking about it since I posted assignment. Okay. Code is available, it's here, it works, play with it. Ask AI about specific pieces. It will help you to understand, because it can answer questions about existing code. You can ask AI, open AI here, like Gemini, and you can ask questions about existing code and it will answer. This is good feature, okay? Consider doing it, all right? It's definitely a source of information. So let's wrap it up for today.